Everyone. Thank you for being with me thus far. Like I've always been saying, this is the data analysis mastery, and with this course, you can become an expert data analyst in 7 days, even if you're a complete number newbie, aka you don't like math or you're wary of numbers. So today we shall talk about data coding and analysis. It is very important, and this part of the course is actually key because this is like the meaty part of it. If you remember very well, you found out that the previous class also makes a whole lot of sense because that's where about 80% of the job is being done because that is where you actually clean the data you've collected. So the coding and analysis part is just about 20% of the job, but it's kind of, technical. So it is something that you have to be calm. You have to bring, about 4 or 5 eyes into it so that you can actually spot out patterns, get insights that you use in your executive report writing and data storytelling. So it is very important. So today, in today's discussion, I am going to be introducing you to some key tabs that you should have in every of your analysis sheet or your coding sheet. It is very important that you have these tabs. There are about 3 or 4 of them. You should, okay, I think we've talked about cleaning data, but just to remind you that cleaning data is important, I couldn't even forget it. So in data analysis and coding, I have to bring it back in because you have to definitely clean your data, check them out. And also is response type. And I intentionally left this out the other time because I wanted most of your questions to come from within. Ask your questions just as you want to ask them. Ask them just the way you feel. But yes, definitely question types, and we're going to discuss that in this aspect. Then after which I'll talk to you about coding, and we shall talk about analysis also. So without further ado, or without wasting more of our time, let's code. So the first thing you do whenever you need to code is take, for instance, your research plan has been written, your data collection has been done, you've prepared your survey design, and your data collection has been done. So once that has been done, either on Survey to Go or on Google Docs, Google Docs preferably because that's free, easy to understand, and all of that. And in any interviewer's face that you say that, that person will actually have a feel that this person, know exactly what he or she is talking about. So I've got some data out here. So the first is customer churn data. So let's take a look at this data. So I want to enable editing and all of that. So take, for instance, I got this kind of data, and if you check it out very well, these data are specifically straightforward data in the sense that I just have the responses, and I have like the labels or the headings of each of these data. So what this is trying to tell me is that just from what the name implies, said customer churn data. That means some kind of customer that withdrew, that left the business, that didn't, that stopped patronizing the organization. So I have gender, I have their ages, I have payment method, most of these customers make use of. I have payment method, I have churn, so maybe they are still with us or they are actually, withdrawn from our business, and last transaction. So I don't know what this transaction means. Maybe it's last transaction cost, maybe it's the number of transactions they've made, or maybe it's the amount they spent on their last transaction. So since it doesn't have, like a naira sign or a dollar sign at the back of it, I guess it's the number of transactions they've made. So But what's very important is for us to take this out to check it out very well. So if I were to analyze this data, what will be my first point? So the first thing I'll do is I'll create a new sheet. So now, so let me just pick them one after the other. So now I introduce you to the key tabs. So that's what I'm doing now. So the first thing I do is I come over to this place and create a readme tab. So it's very important for you to click a readme tab and you place it to the beginning of your analysis. So what readme tabs does is that it houses every of the information pertaining to your analysis. So you could do something like this. So you could do something like this. Come over to this, fill, then give it a nice looking color. So you could take some part, merge them. So you could take some part, merge, then you say readme. You say important notes. So you can actually drop whatsoever you feel is important here, like saying the last transaction means, so the last transaction in the data means the number of transactions made by the customer. So just as every architect or every design engineer have a standard for doing their things, so that every other architect or every other design engineer can understand what they have done. That's the reason this is very important. So once another data researcher sees this, the first thing that person does is come over to this readme tab and understand what the data is talking about. So this is the first time I'm seeing the data or the analysis done by a data analyst. The first thing I do is I check out the readme to know the intricacies, some very important things about that data before actually working on them. So is that easy. So your readme tab could have as many as possible information about your analysis or about your data So that's the first. So taking a look at this, I'm going to rename this. Then I have, because the data is named RapidMiner data, so I'll just put raw at the back of it. So that's this second tab. So the reason I'm putting raw at the back of this is that never ever work on your raw data. It is very important. It's like your raw gold. So whatsoever analysis you need to do, whatsoever coding you need to do, it mustn't go beyond your raw data. This is the actual data. You don't want to tamper with this, because if anything happens, this is the only backup you have. So you just leave the raw data the way it is. So you write something like this and you do something like this. So this is for bring this forth to. So this is for whosoever is working on this data to know that this points to where your data actually starts from. So I'll create another tab, and the other tab I'll be creating will be, I could say, active data or working data. You could name it whatsoever you want. You could say active data, you can say working data. So I come over back to this place, then I highlight everything, I copy the whole of the data, I come over to this place and paste them in active data. So what this means is that I've created a kind of backup for my main data. In case anything happens, I have my main data to fall back on. So I can do whatsoever I need to do, whatsoever analysis I want to do on the active data. But for my raw data, I do not have to touch it. And we have color codes for all of these things. So the first color code is for your data. You come over to this place and give it a color. Most of the time we give it a color red. So this is for you to know that this is exactly where this is starting from. So I have my data as color red. I have my raw data here. Escape, so everything stays the same. You don't touch that. So you come over to active data. So active data is exactly where you do most of the work. And some other important tabs that we could have is that we could have another tab, and that tab would be coding. Coding tab, and coding tab could have several other, internal tabs under it. And the last would be the analysis tab. Oops, sorry. And the last could be the analysis tab. So the color codes for this, for the coding, most of the time we use yellow. We use yellow for coding most of the time. And for analysis, we use green. For analysis, we use green. So these are the color codes. So introduction to the key tabs. So the key tabs are basically done now. So these are the key tabs. But that doesn't mean that you can't, add other tabs under your data, arrow, or under your coding arrow, or under your analysis arrow. As a matter of fact, from this little data, I could still add about 3 or 4 other tabs in each of these headings. But the data most time speaks to you what you do, because you're actually going to tell your stories or write your executive reports from this data. So the data guides you. So your data tells you what you actually want to do, having in mind that this is your direction. So what I'll do is I have my raw data here. I won't touch it. So the next thing I'll do is I'll come over to my active data. This is where I can actually do the whole of my work. So the next thing is I try as much as possible to clean my data. So cleaning my data, for me, the two basic things that always come to mind when it comes to cleaning data is taking out duplicates and checking out blanks. So it's always very important. So if you have blanks, most of those could affect your analysis. So it's always best for you to take them off. So the first thing I always want to do is I check out my blanks. So I come over to find and select. I go to special. I could use F5 for this. So I click on blanks. Then from blanks, I say OK. So this is going to highlight the whole of the blanks. So if you take note, you find out that this active cell has white, while all other blanks have gray in it. They have gray. So what would I do? I need to put something here to take care of this. So I could just say not available. So if I press enter, the not available is just going to fit into this cell D5. So what I'll do is I'll just say control enter so that it fills it into every tab. So if you take note, you find out that in several other tabs I have none available. So now I've kind of taken care of the blanks in my data. So the next thing I'll do is check out for duplicate. So the next I'll just highlight everything. Then I come over to home. From home I come over to conditional formatting. So I highlight cell rows. Then I scroll down to duplicate values. So this says okay, format cells that contain duplicate values with this kind of format. So what duplicate values mean, whenever you do this, it shows that any value that appears more than twice will be duplicated, will be, will be formatted just by whatsoever you've designed. So I could say okay, and if I say okay, you find out that virtually the whole of my data is being highlighted. Only this. So if I check it out very well, in the whole of this data, I have just 1 7, but the rest could be more. So this is 17. Most likely I could have 17 some other place. If I scroll down carefully, I could find another 17. So I have 64. I could have 64 somewhere else. And this credit card, credits, cash, churn, lawyer, I have them more than once, and that's the reason the whole of them, brings this kind of thing. So most of the time, you just don't take out duplicates. You take a proper look at your data to see why you have the kind of duplicates you have. And I've taken a look at this. I've seen that, yeah, having a duplicate doesn't necessarily mean that my data is wrong. It just shows that, it just shows, it just tells me, this gives me a story about the data, which is very good. So I'll just Ctrl Z to take out the whole of the formatting. So sometimes you might be working with data and feel things are not kind of right. Things are not kind of right in the way that, take for instance, I was just looking at my gender and I found that most of them are in lowercase. Yes, I might want to have them in proper case. The same thing with payment method, the same thing with churn, the same thing with last transactions. So most time it's just a normal thing, but for analysis sake, and because your bosses, your directors, your managers, your coordinators might feel somehow about this, you might probably want to change this to proper case. So what I do in most occasions is that I just come and I insert. So I could insert another tab, and while inserting another tab, I just copy out this gender and I put it in a new tab, Ctrl V. So after that, all I do is just change this into a proper now. So I just come over to this place. I say equal to proper open bracket. So I choose the text, then I close bracket and hit enter. So by the time I do this, it changes this mail into a proper now. So I could come over to this place. I could, highlight, click on the cell, then come over to the tip of it until something like a plus comes up, then I double click. So it does the same thing for everything. So instead of me having this as a replica, I could just right click on this tab, then I hide this tab. So that tab is somewhere hidden there. So I could actually work with this. So I could do the same thing for payment method, for churn, and for okay, I think last transaction is okay. So that is that as regards this. So if anything happens here, I could fall back to my raw data. So I have nothing to lose actually. So I've looked at this. I have my gender, I have the age, I have the payment method, I have customers that are still with us, I have those that are no longer still with us, and I have their last transaction. So what are the stories I want to tell from this place? So since I've gotten that as my active data, I could, move to coding, because basically I think I've cleaned the data. The data is fine. I could go ahead with anything I want to do at the active data end, but I want to start coding my responses. So by coding my responses, I click on this, create another tab, bring the tab into coding. Okay, so I could bring the tab into coding, then say, okay, take for instance, I want to share the gender. So I want to tell a story about the gender. So I just come over to this place, then I say respondent gender. respondent gender. So the first thing I'll do is I'll come to active data. So because this is exactly where the whole of my data is, I click on everything, I copy it, then I come to respondent gender, then I paste everything in there. So I could actually do whatsoever I need to do. So by respondent gender, this is the way coding starts. So I will click on this, I insert a tab, I insert a column, sorry, I insert another column. So what I'll do is I'll just say this male, and I say this female. So I know the number of male and the number of female in here. So what I basically do is I have to code them out. And how do I code them out? I create like the responses that I have for gender, I put them out to the side. While I do that, I come over to gender, I do a filter. So if you need to do a filter, just come to sort and filter, then you click on filter. So it brings something like an inverted arrow on that tab. So I could click on it. So it shows me the whole of the options that I have under gender. I have male and female. So I could just choose male first, I OK it. So it will just filter by male. So I could come here, say 1, then come to the hand here, then I replicate it for everything. So I could also come here, uncheck male, check out female, then OK it. So to bring everything for female. So I'll do the same thing also. I come back to this place, get my plus sign, then I double click. So from here I could show me everything. So what this has done is that this has shown me I've coded the male part and the female part of my responses now. So because this is the question, another color coding for this. So since this is the question, I come over to this place, then I change it to, most of the time we use a kind of light yellow for our questions, and for like positive responses we use something green, and for your negative responses we use red. So it's just for you to have a feel of what your responses are before you actually go deeper in everything. So by me looking at my data, I could tell several things from it. The colors are leading me, the tabs are leading me. So that's basically the way things are being done. So for male, I could just use light red. So since I do not have my red, I could use something like this. Okay, so let me use this accent orange. Then for female, I could use something light green. So that is that as regards that. So all of these things, these colors, tells a lot of things. So I think we've done the introduction of key tabs. We've talked about clean data, and yes, I skipped response types before going into coding. So there's another Excel sheet you are talking about response tab. So I've come over to this place. So the same thing for age. What do I need to check about the age? What kind of stories do I want to tell with the age? So I could want to say that the lowest person that has bought from us, as in the lowest age that bought from us, or the highest age that have bought in, that have purchased from us, or like the average age. But most of the time, ages don't actually tell deep stories about what people buy. So ages don't actually tell stories, but yes, it's also very important that we pick it up. So the only thing I could do from this place is I'll take the lowest age and the highest age, and from this it doesn't actually resonate that much to me, because I have I have age 64, I have age 28, I have all of that. But the only thing I could do is probably what I've done to the first one. So I come over to this place and I do a kind of filter too. So I could take the filter out of this. then come back to age, then I put the filter in there. So to check the whole of the responses I have here, because it's always very key for you to check the responses. So I see from 17, so like the lowest age that bought from the store is from 17, while the highest age is 91. So basically what I would want to do is categorize this age. So take for instance, I categorize them in three ways, saying millennials, adults, and seniors. So seniors means, the aged people. So I could say millennials are from 17 to I could say millennials are from 17 to 25. Let me use that way. So I'll uncheck every other. Scroll down. So you see that because I've cleaned the data, doing my stuff is not that hard. It's not that difficult, so to say. So I'll uncheck all others, but there are more. So this might take some time, but that's what analysis is all about. But one thing is, you've done most of the important job. I hope you're following. So you've done most of the important job. So I want to categorize those that bought from us into three forms. So I'll talk to you. I'm taking them as millennials, adults, and seniors. So by millennials, I mean from age 17 to 25. From adult, I could take 25 to 60. Then for seniors, I take 60 down. So this is a all. But what can we do? You need this to tell your stories most of the time. So since you have what you want to say at the back of your mind, your data could guide you in telling these stories, and it's always fun to have something of such done. So I could say, okay, so if we scroll up now, I have from 17 to 25, so I just click. So from here, I could insert another, so I just click on this. So I could insert, then I say millennials, should be double N, sorry. Say millennials, so I still put in my one here to code. So I have one for everything here. So I could create another. So create another and say adults. And I could create another and say seniors. Since I'm telling my story from this end, so I could uncheck everything. So my adults, just as I've said, I want adults to be from 26 to say 59. To say 59. Then senior starts from from 60 upwards. 51, 52, 53, 55, 6, 7. Okay, so I could add 60 to adults. Let me take okay, let me say 59. So I say okay. So from here I could come here, code it as 1, then double click, so I have my 1 everywhere. So I come back to this place and select all, deselect all, then I scroll down and take it from 60 down to whatever number I want it to be, and categorize that set as seniors. Are you following? So if you aren't getting it, you can always drop me an email, then I push further by making more explanations for you. But this is basically it, and for time's sake, and so as not to disturb you so much or bore you too much, So I'll just keep it quick and as fast as I can. So I say okay, then I'll come here and fill everything up. So I could come back here and remove the filter. So I take out the filter. So for these two, I think I've done the same thing. So I could come over to this place, then show this is the question by picking the accent yellow. Then so I could leave this, and if I want to color code them, so I could color code the three of them as say light green. So that has been done. So the same thing could be done for your payments, for your churn, and for last transaction. You can find the highest transaction, find the lowest transactions, and all of that. So I'm doing this just to cut time. So if you find out that most of your codings is happening in this area, so I could say, instead of using gender, because I think I've done more than gender here, so I could say detailed coding. So at the end of the coding, so I could just scroll to the end. So this is where the data ends. So I could just scroll to the end. Then I leave like about 5 lines, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I come to this place. So I just come over to this place to write some codes in there. So, and the way I always want to go about it is that the first thing I do is I format that space that I want to put something in, and I change the color. To something bright, maybe like this kind of gray or this. So I change the color. Then I do a kind of count for every of what I've worked on. So I just come over to this place and I say equal to. So I say sum. So note the formula, do not forget. I open my bracket. It says number, it says first number. So what I want this to do for me is count the whole of the ones that I have in this column. So I could say, instead of me going up to drag, so I could say from C2 to C997. So I close the bracket. So you see that it's starting from 2 to this exact place. So I could say, then I hit enter. So it counts the number of ones that I have in there for me. So if I scroll back up, if I scroll back up, sorry, cancel. So if I scroll back up, you find out that this starts from C2 down to what? Down to, pardon me, down to C997. So if you come over to this place, you see that I've summed all the ones that I have from C2 to C997. And what this is telling me is that the number of mails that I have in this place is this. So I could just drag. So I drag the same formula all here. So it tells me everything. Actually, I don't need it to add this, because this is not my data, so I could delete this. So it shows me that, let me go up to freeze, like to freeze a pane. So I want to freeze this top pane. So I click on the second part, then I come to data. Is it data? Not data. I should find it here. Okay, I come over to view, then I say freeze top row. So it automatically freezes the top row for me. So if I drag, everything could go, but the top row stays. So I could drag down. So from here, it shows me that the number of males that I have is 548, and the number of female that I have here is 448. It also shows me that from the data gotten, most of those buying from us are adults, just by my definition of adult. Most of those buying from us are adults, and followed by seniors, then by millennials. So I could tell just from the data. Then if I want to choose payment method, is it cash or credit card, I could do that. So I could tell the number of those that have withdrawn from as buyers, those that are still our loyal customers, and I could tell the number of data that are not available just by this little um, coding, just by this little analysis. So I could come over to this place to analysis. Take for instance, I use this as my detailed coding, and like I said the other time, you could have as many as possible of these, depending on what your data says. You could want to speak more from this. And one thing I've learned from experience is that the data is just there. So it is the story that you tell with the data. It is the analysis that you do with the data. As small as this data might seem, there are several things that could come out of it. There are several stories you could tell from it. There are several reports that you could write from it. Depends on what you want. Are you following? So from the analysis end, I could come over to this place and say, oops, Control Z, Control Y, Control Y. So I could come to my analysis end and say, and show charts. So I could want to put my chart in the analysis end. So after I've done my coding here, I could want to do my chart in the analysis end. So the basic thing I just do is I just come over to this place. So the first thing I do is I copy this gender. So I come over to my chart. So I could just pick a place here, V. Remember the whole of the what's it called? The formatting will be copied, but no problem. I can always come over to this place to clear the formatting. So I have that here. I have gender here. So from the coding, I have male and female. So I click on the male and female, control copy. So I come back to my chart. So just below it, I say control copy. So I do that. So I still come back to this place and click on the numbers. Say control copy also. Back to my chart. I put it under here. Control V. So I need to do this so that I can actually see the kind of stuff that comes up. So because there is a formula in here, that's the reason this comes out as an error. So the best way I'm supposed to have copied it is to right click and paste special. So when I paste special, I paste, where's my paste special? So I paste special. So by pasting special, I paste no, I paste with values. So paste values, paste numbers with formatting, paste this. So I'm pasting the values and numbers with formatting. So it shows that the formula that I've written to get this will still be there. I could paste only the value if I do not have the intention of doing any formulas here. And I could, but what's very important is knowing that I'm transferring a formula from my detailed coding aspect to my chart. So I'll just just paste all the values. So I'll just paste the values alone. So I could highlight the whole of this, come over to this place and say clear format. So if I had pasted this with the formatting, immediately I say clear format, it's going to show an error message here. So I could just come here, then make this bold. Then from this male and female, so I could just create a chart with this. So I come to insert, then I say charts. So I come to insert, then I just create a kind of chart. So I could put that under here. So I could label this customer gender. So this basically tells me a whole lot of things. So I could come over to this place to, change the design or change the way I want it. So to make it more better, so I could come here and do this. So from here, it's very easy for me to tell that 55% of our gender is male, while 45% is female. So that's basically what the analysis is all about. So I can come back to this place, do the same thing from the age sets buying from us. So I'll just come over to this place, then I say come back to, so I say copy. So I come back to chart. So this is the first. So I could tell it as any I want it. So I could say this is 1. So to make things, stay in a fine format, I could say this is 2. Control V. Sorry. Oops. Thought as much. So I'll copy this. So I'll come back to this place. Then I paste it in there. So I can say this is 2, and I say customer age range. Customer age range. So now after that I could, so I say customer age range, then I come back to this area again and I copy millennials, adults and seniors. So I come over to charts, so I paste everything in there. So I also come back to my detailed coding again. I skip this, so I copy the numbers, then I put them underneath, Ctrl V. Like I said, you have to use paste special. So I come over to this place, so I right click, paste special, then I okay, so now let me copy with the formatting. I see that by the time I highlight this and say remove formatting, everything comes as an error. Clear formats. Oops, didn't happen. I think that's cool. I've learned something. So by teaching someone you learn too. So I could have everything as bold. Then from this I could also use this to create another chart. So insert, so what kind of chart do I need to create? So let me say I want to create this kind of chart this time. So I could say this is, so I could say this is customer age range. So if you take a look at this now, so no matter how much your data is, so in bits you will be telling your stories out of it just by doing this. So basically analysis and coding is nothing, is actually very easy. So I could tell from the payment method too, and from the churn method, and from the churn rate. Let me use that word. So aside chart, there are several other things. You can want to create a graph, you can want to tell anything. So this is basically what coding and analysis is. But I'm doing this in a quantitative way. So take for instance, you've collected your data using ethnography or using focus groups. So in areas where you have more of qualitative data, what's going to happen in there? So let me just save this part and take you to where I have the whole of my data. So let's take a look at this OpenQ data. Okay, so this is where I'm going to talk about the response types. There are two basic types of responses. We have the open-ended questions. Okay, so open-ended questions bring about open-ended question response, and closed-ended questions also bring about closed ended responses. So a very good example of close-ended question is the what, where. You understand? There are what question, there are where question, while the open-ended questions are the why questions and how questions. They involve stories. So take for instance, I say, what is your name? That is like that is an open-ended, that is a closed-ended question. What is your name? My name is Mark. That's all. So you can, so that's a closed-ended. You just answer the question and boom, that's all. Or saying, where do you live? I live in Accra. Bam. That's just the question. So those that I mentioned now are closed-ended questions. So you just answer the question and it closes everything. But questions that start with why and how, they are like open-ended questions. How do you go about living in Accra? So people start telling you story. Why do you decide to live in Accra? So people start telling you stories. So those are open-ended questions. They open you more to several other things. So this question of can you exercise for 10 minutes every day is a closed-ended question. Can you exercise for 10 minutes every day? Yes, no, and that's all. But if you say, how do you come about exercising for 10 minutes every day? That's a story. So people keep telling you several of the things that they want. So from this data now, so let's take for instance, this is the data you've downloaded, or this is the data you've collected using Google Forms and you've downloaded it. So all you need to do is your participant's gender, just as I've done the other time. So the first thing, you clean your data, take a look at the whole of them, clean them, create your readme tab. So this is the raw data. So you just rename this from sheet 1 to raw data. Then you create another tab for active data. Copy this main data into the active. In case anything happens, you have your raw data to fall back on. Do your color codings the way you should do them. Then start telling your stories. So you could start anywhere. Depends on the important things that you want to show in your data. So you could actually start telling your stories from participants, gender, house tag. So you could say which house has the number of people. So this is Ruby, this is bronze, this is everything. So all you need to do, like I've been saying, is just a filter thing. So should I come over to this place? So then I put my filter at the top of it. So I come over to this place and insert one, insert and all of that. So I could just come over to this place, choose. So I think I have about 8 of them. So there are blanks in there too. So remember, while doing your data cleaning, you're supposed to have taken the whole of these ones out. So let me quickly take the blanks out. So I come over to this place, go to special, go to my blanks. So it has shown me the whole of the blanks in my data. But these couldn't necessarily be blanks because I just created them to do a kind of codings. But on this this question of on a scale of this, there are blanks here. There are some people which these questions are being asked, but they refuse to give responses to it. So I could just do like not available thing there. So I could come over to this place and say uncheck all, then I check. So I said check bronze. So whichever one that I want to start first. So I just put my bronze in here. So I put a 1 and I do it for everything. So I could come uncheck the bronze, check cobalt, and bring the, so come back to this place, write my cobalt, ALT, I hit enter, put in my 1 to code it all, then I drag it down. But mind you, this is being done in my coding section and in the active tab. So don't forget that it is being done in my coding section and in my active tab. So if I check everything, so I just did this for 2 anyway. So if I check everything, it shows the responses as I've done it. So I can actually now write my code at the end of it all, then start telling my stories from there. And with this too, can you exercise for 10 minutes every day. Yes, no. Number of those that could exercise for 10 minutes every day, and number of those that could. So you tell that story in percentage. So most time on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to rate our yoga service? So this company is asking a question that on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to rate our yoga service? So this in market research is basically for us, we call it NPS score. So it's basically for us to know those that are our loyal customers and those that aren't. So most times this NPS score is being put in three different forms. We have the promoters, we have the passive, and we have the detractors. So the promoters most times are always fall between the number of 9 and 10. So these are the people that will tell about your services to their friends, that will promote you. So we call them promoters. So we call passives. Passives are between 6 and 8. Passive are between 6 and 8. So they are, just as the name implies, they are just passives. Why from 1 to 5 are detractors. So these are people that will tell about your company in a bad way to several others. So the question of why is an open-ended question, because people's reason for not choosing a service could be enormous. So when you ask a question of on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being the lowest and 10 being the highest, how likely are you to rate our yoga services? And somebody says 2. Why do you say 2? So you could get a response like your service is expensive, and your store or office is far from my residence. This is one reason. Your service is expensive and your store is far from my residence. So we ask this person too. This person says 4. Why do you say 4? This person might say your customer. This person might say your customer service is poor. You can see that the responses are different. They go totally out of what you might want to imagine. So this person says 7, and you ask, why do you say 7? Why do you say 7? So your service is all right, but expensive. Boom. So this person says 8. So you could, as much as you can, get more of this. But so how do we code qualitative responses like this? So what I do is that you check through each of the responses one after the other. Then you create a column for this. So take for instance, I read this person, and this person said your service is expensive and your store is far from my residence. So I'll create the first tab, and in that first tab I'll say expensive service, and for this person I put a 1. So I've started decoding now. I put a 1, and the person says the service is expensive and office is far. So store is far from residence. So I come over to this place, I put another 1. This person says customer service is poor. So I come over to this place, say poor customer service. So I come over to this place and say 1. So this person says your service is alright but expensive. So I come over to this person talks about expensive too. I put that in here. But service is alright. So if I were to be the researcher doing this and somebody tells me your service is alright but expensive, I could I could probe further by saying, okay sir, thank you very much for that, but I would like to understand you well. What do you mean by our service is alright? So that person could be more specific by telling you, yes, because I always enjoy it and it works for me. So instead of writing all right, because words like all right, good, okay, they are just normal responses. They didn't actually pass any message. So it's always very important for the researcher to actually probe further by asking, yeah, by this, what do you mean, sir? So if I ask this customer that tells me that our service is all right but expensive, if I ask the customer that, sir, what do you mean? The person could tell me, yes, what I mean by all right is that I always enjoy your service and it works well for me. So I come over to this place and say enjoyed service. So I could say enjoyed service. So then I come over to this place and say 1, 2. So that is how I'll fill everything up from the beginning of this to the end of it all. Mind you, this is also where I also, state the difference between my responses. So state the difference in the form of, so I could state the difference in several forms. So one of which is expensive. If a customer says our service is expensive, so I could, say that is like a negative response. Negative response in the sense that yes, we felt we've done our research to a point that our price should suit the customer, but the customer says it's expensive, so I take this as read. So our store is far, I also do the same. I also take it as read. Poor customer service. Poor customer service is definitely a red. Enjoy service. This person enjoyed our service, so I take this as a green. So you do that for the whole of the responses you gather from your respondent. Then at the end of it all, you do the calculation, the math that I always do. So I'll just put it somewhere here because time is no longer on our side. So I'll just say equal to, then I say sum, then I open brackets. So I'm starting from I2 to, let's say, I6. So I'll say from I2 to I6. Then I close my bracket and I hit enter. So this is 2. So I just drag it down to as many places that I want to drag it to. So I could, so bringing this to my, charts, to my chart area is always kind of technical. So I'll right click every of this, come here, say copy, come back to this place and say, maybe I've chosen the question. So the question will be at the top, the responses be below. So I say Ctrl V, it comes in here. I'll come back to this place. So I highlight to say Ctrl copy. So I'll come back to this place and just paste special. So I paste the values. So I could clear the formatting. Clear format. So from here, what kind of graph do I want to create with this? So I could use a bar chart, a column chart, whatever I want. So I could create a bar chart, a column chart here. So I have this. So this represents expensive, this represents this. So I could do whatsoever that I want to do with my charts. So that is that regarding these two. So I wouldn't save this. I say don't save. So if it were to be a qualitative response, yeah, so this is kind of technical, but it's very easy. So I'll just run through this because I think the time is not on our side. Let me check. Okay, I can't even spot the time, so I'll just go on. Okay, so I ask a question of what's your best food, and this person says rice, this person says beans, this person says, this is like the data. If I want to code this in a qualitative way, mind you, the codings that I've been doing back and forth since were quantitative data. So if I want to code this in a qualitative way, so I just write each of these responses out in a long form. Then I keep picking them one after the other. Say this person says answered rice, and rice is in where? Is in cell A2. So I just come over to this place and put cell A2. So whosoever sees this knows that Okay, when you ask the question of best food, somebody chose yam, and that person that chose yam is in cell A6. So I just come over to cell A6. I say yes, that's true. Somebody said that from A6. And in qualitative responses, the rows are the respondents, while the columns are the questions. So what that means is that columns like this have the questions, rows like this have the respondents. And the best possible way for me to explain this is that I'm asking a question of rice. So you could say rice. How many people chose rice? How many people like rice? I could say three. You understand? I could say three. And why am I saying three? I'm saying three because from here, just three people. I could say three because from here, just three people chose. Excuse me. Yeah. Just a minute. I'm sorry. So it's kind of hurry. So when the question of how many people is being asked, so I could say three because respondent two said he or she likes rice. Respondent 5 said the same thing, and respondent 11 said the same thing too. So I could actually tell the number of people that said this. And what this A tells me is that all these people answered question in column A. So the whole of these people, this person that says noodles, this person that said fish, all these people answered the question in column A. So I could actually trace. So that is that as regards that. So I hope you guys, enjoy the whole of this class. And then if you don't, or even if you have any questions, you can actually tell me. So it's just something that is very, very easy for you to get. So don't forget that the basic things that you should know is that you should have a readme tab where you spot out the important things in your data. So you talk about this in your readme tab. So you have your data tab. This actually tells us that you have just two tabs for your data, this and this, and from here your coding starts from here. And the same thing with analysis. Don't forget the color codings also. So remember, you should have a raw data tab. So this is where your actual data is. Never ever tamper with this. It is very important. Never ever tamper with it. Have this as your backup. So should anything happen, you can actually move from this end. You can actually start again from this end. So sometimes you could write a report or tell a story from your data, and the organization wants more. So if you still have your data, you could actually go back, then tell the story in the way the organization wants it. But if you've tampered with it, there's nothing you could do. That means you've lost your data. So try as much as possible to have your raw data in a special tab. Don't work on it. Just leave it the way it is. Then you could create an active tab. So I just named this active tab. You could name whatever you want. So this is actually my cleaned data that I've worked on. And mind you, you don't need to clean your raw data. Just leave it the way it is. Don't do anything to it. So I have my active data here. So I could name it as clean data sometimes, however I want it. But most of the naming conventions that I always use is I use clean data. So if I've cleaned it, so I call this clean data. So if I'm working on it, just as I'm doing here in coding, I could call this my active data or my working data or my detailed coding. So most of the time I use, if it were my organization stuff, so the nomenclature that we use most of the time is, so since this is clean data, so I make this active data. So that is that as regards that. So your coding too, make sure they all follow the number convention. Just as yellow shows that it is a question, male shows it that it's something that's kind of negative, while green shows that it's positive. So for the analysis end too, make sure I have my charts, my graphs, and whatsoever I need to have in here. So if it were to be a quality kind of response, if there to be a qualitative response, I won't have these ones. You understand? Like this my one and everything. I won't have that. So what I'll have in most of the occasions will be spottings of each of these things. So I'll just say from question one. So I could come over to this place. Let me quickly create a tab to show that. So I could say from question one. So I could say Q1. So I could say Q1. Then I put enter. Then I start looking at the responses one after the other. This person said male. So I come back to this place and say the person that said male is found in cell B913. So I just come over to this place, then I say cell B13 for that question. I come again. Whosoever says that again, I come back to this place again. Who else says it? Cell BD. So I just put the cells in there. Then at the end of everything, I count by the number of people that says that. So take for instance, I think I'll have to go back to the data I was working on the other time. So instead of counting once now, if somebody tells me, yeah, we're talking about best food, how many people loved rice? So I could say one, two, three, just three people. So I've counted that. So it's just as easy as that. And it's just a matter of looking at this. Just look at this, then count your stuffs. And it's so easy too. It's so easy that I could place this. So it's still the same formula here. So aside the fact that I know that this best food and this rice are like the subheadings, if I need to count, so I'll just come over to this place. Then I say equal to, excuse me, a minute. Yeah, I have to sit back again. So I could just come over to this place and say equal to, open up my stuffs. Then I say equal to sum, open up my bracket. So I start from this area, then to this area, then I close this. Why? Oh, sorry. I'm supposed to use count. I'm sorry. So count. I'm supposed to use count. But yeah. So I close. Oops, what's happening here? I'm coming. I'm having an issue with the formula. If it's not count if, I think it should be count, and I don't know. Count. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? So I love to pause and I love to pause and take a look at this very well. Okay, so it should be count A. So I'll put my brackets, then I'll close this. So count every of the tabs that has something in it. So this counts everything and tells me that I have 3 of my respondents that have chosen this rice. Then from there I can actually get my graphs, get my chart and all of that. So it's that easy. So that's like the end of our introduction to our data coding and analysis. So up next is data storytelling. Before then, enjoy yourself, take just drink water, just as I want to do too, because I'm actually tired. I've been speaking for over an hour. So let me drink water before somebody will come and die here. All right, talk to you soon. Thanks.